Quick change. So, yeah, everyone's hearing me loud and clear, and I'm recording on all systems, and Jesus, this is magnificent stuff altogether. God. Anyway, how are we all doing, folks? You well? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, we're good.
Good. What was I going to say to you? This is my last class for the week. So I'm going to rip through this stuff and get you out the door before the snow. Are you having snow down there yet? Huh? So I know some people have emailed me to say that they might have some dodgy connections. I have the sum total of 18 people out of 60 odd people. Where is everyone? 19. Wow. The numbers are increasing. I blame the snow. Anyway, as we said, next week is midterm break, I think, isn't it? So you get a break from this constant rantings of me, anyway.
Sorry, Mark. So what? We don't have class next week, is it?
Say that again.
Have we class next week? No.
Not formal classes. Isn't next week Rag Week, isn't it, or midterm break or something?
Well, yeah, it would have been Rag Week, I suppose. Yeah.
No, you haven't. So no, you don't have to sit down and wear yourselves into my lectures or most lectures, nearly all lectures actually. And I certainly know that we're not calling formal lectures anyway. There might be the odd lecturer that might say, "Oh yeah, come on, I want to talk to you, I want to review stuff." God love them. But we are generally speaking, no, we're not. We're not going to require you to sit. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's to give both yourselves a break and ourselves. God love us. And it's simply because you're sitting there for hours on end, one lecture after another and so on, and it is tough going, to say the least. And also what should I say, for us, I listened to we had a department meeting or a faculty meeting there at 2:00 today, and lecturers are talking about spending 4.5 hours to prepare for 4 hours lectures, kind of thing, and it's so we're not sitting back by any stretch of the imagination. It's no holiday camp. There's a lot of work. I mean, when I'd finish with you guys, it'll take me another hour and a half or so to just compile everything and edit out stuff, and as you know, for those of you that are looking at YouTube, and then upload it to YouTube and all that sort of stuff, so as you have a solid recording. That's probably the big advantage of this, is the fact that some, if not all of us, some of us are at least are recording this stuff, because I do know people would have issues with connections and so on, so at least they can get to review it, and or indeed go back over it, and it's helped several people. I'm quite sure of that, which is fine, which is the whole point of it. We aim to please. Anyway, my lips are drying out because there's obviously signs of cold weather and kissing young ones. No, Jesus Christ, I shouldn't say that. Where am I? Okay, let's get the show on the road, as we say. Boom. And here we are, and I've slightly tidied up a few things, so here we go. Boom, boom. And we'll enlarge it. So now, right. You would have heard some of this stuff before. We would have talked about some of this stuff to you. But today I'm going to whiz through these PowerPoints just by way of some level of recap, but more importantly to give you a direction. So what's in this is essentially the contents of this is essentially your final business report, even though they call it here writing a business plan, but it has all the ingredients and elements and sections that you need to pay particular attention to write a good business report, so that you get good marks. That's the name of the game. So so with that, let's just start bouncing down through it. Come on, Mark, get your act together here. Here we are now. So, what we're going to look at, the purpose of the business plan, clearly. In your case, it's to convince Willie and myself and whomever else can join us on the day. Dragons. Puff, the magic dragon. That has nothing got to do with gender preference or anything like that. But to convince myself and Willie and whomever else to invest in your respective companies. Okay, the Dragon's Den. So this is why you're writing. The purpose is to present, and we'll talk about that more in detail later on. And then two primary reasons for writing the business plan. Who reads it? Does anyone read it? Well, externally, certainly we read them. And then the difference between a summary business plan, full business plan, and an operational business plan. Kind of overcomplicating it. I'm going to scrap that crap. Oh, geez, that's a great expression, isn't it? Scrap the crap. Oh, jeez, that cracked me up, I do. Anyway, and this is all being recorded. Oh, mother of Jesus. So yeah, I'm going to scrap the crap because we're doing something better than that in terms of the business report and business model canvas and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll have a quick look at explain the executive summary. Now that's one of my pet hates, the executive summary, and the reason for that is simply that you've got to have the wow factor in there at the start of your business plan, and as much detail in as little space as possible, and tell a cracking story in the intro, like a really good movie that you don't want to leave. That I'm hooked at the very start. Okay, not like some movies you have to wait for hours before you get into it. But that's the whole idea of it. You get that wow factor, and sometimes people say, well, an executive summary is essentially just bits from other parts of the document and synopsize up there. Technically, yeah, that's correct. But it's how you synopsize it. You don't literally copy and paste from the marketing section and for the finance and this, that, and that's not at all. You take it and you might start off doing that, and then you whittle it all down and say, right, let's make this into a really really catchy story. That's why that level, and I say usually around a half to 3/4 of a page, around that. Sometimes I'd say maybe a third of a page, but usually try and get it in a half a page. Not a lot, but a lot of writing, but a lot of thought to get to get that impact. And we look at milestones, of course, like everything else. And I'll digress here for a moment. I will give you some material on project management next week. I'll upload short lectures and so on and so forth up onto links onto Moodle into YouTube of material that you can look at. That's what we have to do next week, as we call it, asynchronous lecturing on videos. In other words, we prepare videos over the coming days and just upload some to your for you to look at. So you won't have the formal lectures that you log in, but you can look at these things at your own pace. So I will do something on project management because it's a very good topic to have an understanding of and get an insight. You'd hear about it, but I'm going to give you some of the nuts and bolts of it and why it's so important. Because eventually, all you're doing is you have a start, a middle, and an end. So you start off with a business plan, you put it all together, and you have an end. This is our product, and then you do it all over again for other reasons and so on. So understanding why and what are the key elements and of business plan, project management, and also I've already uploaded your material for leadership from when we spoke about that, and that's a core skill as well for anyone, not just the project manager, but nevertheless it's an implicit in project management itself that you do have good leadership skills. So what else am I doing here? Oh yes, why the management team and the company is structured, or why you came together as is, and that'll be a next section after your introduction. And then the purpose of the sources and uses of funds, so statement and assumption sheets and so on. So basically, that element in the business report is the synopsized version of the stuff you have in your Excel documents. Remember, you put all your assumptions in, you start putting all your costs together, then you extract your P&L or income statement, cash flow, and balance sheet. So you're using all the other skills and knowledge that you picked up in other modules, and you compile them into that Excel sheet, and then you take snapshots of the Excel and put it into the this document, or the business document as such. And then lastly, detail the parts of an oral presentation of the business plan. So when you have the report done, I think we might be able to manage it this year. I think we'll break out. Well, not breakout rooms, but we will break out. We will have presentations, even though they may be online. And but we'll come to that in due course. Don't worry about it. It's straightforward. We're not going to. I won't stream it live out over Facebook or anything like that. You're safe. So the business plan, written narratively, sometimes between 25 and 35 pages long. Sometimes it can be a little bit shorter. Sometimes it can be a bit longer, depending on the time. But in your cases, you'd want to be aiming in around that kind of volume in total, right? And then, the dual use of it for new ventures, and the business plan is a dual purpose document both inside and outside the firm, quite clearly. So inside, it gives us, it enables us to look at stuff, research stuff, find out what we're doing, where we want to go, and then externally, it's for the banks, venture capitalists, investors, business angels, whomever, IDA, Enterprise Ireland. You have the glossy version for them. But it's also a very effective way of communicating to people. This is what we're doing. This is our plan for the next 12 months, for example. And we have a business plan. It's not the same as your strategic document, but remember, we're in startup mode here. And the same for if you're in an existing organization and you're introducing a new product, you'll still similarly have a business case document. So it's a way of you saying, this is what we're introducing as a new product line to support our existing products. And you'll be reporting on it, and this is where we're starting out, and we're now at this level, we're ready to get the prototype, and we'll do this. That's why project management is so important, because it helps you to show and communicate out what's actually happening inside in your new product or completely new business, whatever the case may be. So obviously for internally, it's for the employees, for your colleagues, for the immediate team, most importantly, that are working on it, so everyone's on the same page and they understand what's been done. And as I said, externally for stakeholders, anyone such as investors and banks and so on, all that crowd of wasters. I shouldn't be saying things like that. So the structure, you want to make the best impression. Okay, and that doesn't mean having a lovely, glossy, colourful printed brochure. It's nice, but remember, those of us in the know, we don't get deceived by colours and gloss and so on and so forth. Tell me what's going on. I actually had an MD many years ago. I worked for him, and he was a great mentor. And he never liked PowerPoints in colour. He felt that we were trying to disguise stuff. Oftentimes he was right. But he preferred black and white, just give me the information. Forget about all the gloss and so on and so forth. What kind of a car do you drive? A red one. Anyway, although some entrepreneurs want to demonstrate creativity, departing from the basic structure of the conventional business plan is usually a mistake. And I absolutely don't agree with that. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because we're doing something different already. We've moved on from the basic business plan and walking down into a bank with this folder on your arm with the business plan. Those days are gone. The days now are of the quick business canvas and synopsis of that. That's essentially a kind of wordish document that's built on your business model canvas, or numbers of iterations of it, so you can see the story as to how you got to where you are and where you're going to, because it's a process. It's not just a once-off. Okay. So typically investors are busy people and want to plan where they can actually find critical information. That's important. That's why the executive summary at the start is so important. Gets their interest, and if you mention something about your margins are this, or your market is that, or suppliers are there, if an investor is a supply chain manager or a director of supply chain in a company, he'd probably want to go down and say, well, who are their suppliers? Where are they getting this stuff? Maybe I know somewhere else they go get it. or if someone has a marketing background, they'll be looking at, let me see, how did they get to this market? What was their target? What was their addressable market? And so on. So people will have various skill sets, and usually that's the case with investors. They will have specific core skills or expertise that they want to be able to drill down. So if you were into going into startup technology startup investors, you can be quite sure that the guys around the table have either owned companies or worked in companies, or are thoroughly familiar with the technology, so they can delve down and say, yeah, this makes sense, that makes sense, what they're talking about here is a load of rubbish, and they'll quiz you on it, and you have to try and convince them. So they'll look for critical information for themselves, and it had better be in the report, because if they can't find it, they'll say, this is rubbish, this is all makey up. So you have, well, all this sort of stuff. You do have software packages, and there are many software packages available that employ the interactive menu-driven approach, and you can see those now, right? Click what's your market site, click what's this, what's that. Stay away from that shit stuff. It's of no benefit at all. It's because, as you know, when you're writing stuff, you're actually thinking about what you're writing. More importantly, you're thinking about how it sounds when you're writing it. And you know yourselves, apart from the fact that if you're like me, you say, Jesus, what's the spelling on this? And we have Grammarly and things like that to check our spelling. But oftentimes we write something down, so that doesn't come across well, and you might write it a couple of times. And God knows I do that all the time, I stand back and look and say, not quite getting the message across, change a word here, change that sentence, put in a different clause. So it's really important that you do it that way, rather than just being mechanical and following these stupid drop-down boxes. Load of horse's ass. So some of the programs are very helpful. However, entrepreneurs should avoid the boilerplate plan that looks as though it came from a canned source. Precisely the point I'm making. Because they'll all begin to look alike, and people say, for heaven's sake, they'll get bored of that. So you have to be able to, what was this guy? Oh yeah, some years ago, a couple of years back, I saw a guy who was asked to, he had to do his CV. You might have seen it, it went viral from memory. And rather than write a CV, he made a little video of himself using PowerPoints and so on. It was absolutely brilliant. He went all the way back to when he was born, for heaven's sake. But he condensed it down and brought it right up into the type of person he is, what he'd studied, and blah, blah, blah. It was actually brilliant. It was radical, but it was effective, So sometimes it works, sometimes it fails miserably. But at least you can think of trying to do things slightly differently, okay? And of course, you have to create a sense of excitement. Facts and figures. A business needs to project a sense of anticipation, excitement about the possibilities that surround a new venture. I don't know how best to explain that in from a different perspective, but whatever your ideas are and the plan is and so on and so forth, it all comes down to your delivery. How you actually present it yourself. Now, you'll notice yourself, some of the ways I express things, and might have a bit of a laugh or so on. You're not going to go into having a laugh with these guys, but you can actually show the passion you're feeling for something, and that can be a hook in itself to potential investors. When you're actually, when you're really fired up about what you're doing and what you're presenting, and you can only do that when you really know what you're doing. You really know the business plan inside out, and it's like a second nature. It's like telling a joke that you heard years ago, and it's your party piece. You become better and better at it, and that's the kind of level you'd need to be getting to in terms of presentation. So this is why we do this stuff with you, is that you try and get you exposed to doing these sort of things, such that you become comfortable at it. This isn't just about a few freaking marks at the end of the semester, for crying out loud. This is about building these skills and for yourselves, such that you have a level of confidence going out. Because I'm all the time thinking ahead of what are the attributes of the students that we want to deliver to the workplace in 6 months' time or a year's time, particularly when I'm dealing with final year students and so on. and break some of the old habits that they might have had to bring them in, because we've been in there, we've been in the companies, we're still in companies, we see what's happening, and this is why I say you need to, guys, you need to get this, you need to be good at this to be able to do that, and so on and so on. So having that sense of excitement about your business plan, so the contents of it, the plan, clear and concise information. It should be long enough to provide sufficient information, but yet short enough to maintain interest. Okay, ramblings can go on, and there's nothing worse. You know, give me pokers, hot pokers to stick in my eyes. If things go on and go on and go on and go on. You're probably saying, "Yeah, how do you think we feel here listening to you?" Oh, Jesus. Anyway, I have no cameras on, so I can't see any reactions, for heaven's sake. So there are 3 types of business plan. Now I'm going to fly through these because I don't want to waste time on them. Summary business plan, forget it. Too short. Doesn't really do an awful lot. Might be okay if you're making a quick presentation inside in your business internally and so on. The center one we call, as I said, the full business plan or full business report. The other one, the operational plan, meant primarily for internal audience, works best as a tool for creating a blueprint for new ventures and all that. Total horse's ass. Forget about it. This is bullshit. 40 to 100 pages. Do you honestly think someone's going to sit down and read 100 pages of meandering drivel? Of course not. Lord God, do you know what I would actually, if it would allow me to do so, I would only have one document, one page. And you say, Jesus, Mark, that's great. Is that all we have to do for you? Unfortunately not. But for me, one page of the final version of the business model canvas, but color coded so as I can see what you started out with and I can read it. But that's just me. So for you guys to bring you through the exercise to be able to get to that level, we're going to focus on the centerpiece here. What you're looking for to attract investment into your company. So recognizing the elements of the plan may change, and they will. So when you've defined your market and so on and so forth, job isn't done. You still have possibilities that market can change. Anything can happen. Competitors can be out there. Someone else might be launching something even ahead of you, and you say, that's it, job done, we're out of here. No, you find what can we do differently? You don't give up. Okay? So new insights invariably emerge when an entrepreneur or a team of entrepreneurs immerse themselves in writing the plan and start getting feedback from others. So that's why I say to you, you need to get out of the building, talk to people, talk to others, and get feedback. So it's a constantly evolving document. Your business canvases are evolving. And when you have a version, when you get to the point that now we're ready to go and look for investment, it evolves even more again because you get feedback from these guys. You may be getting funding, but they'll be giving you funding based on constraints. They'll say, well, you should do this and you should move that and change the product here, improve that there. And we'll give you more money because you haven't specified enough and blah, 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 blah. And straight away, coming out of the investment meeting or presentation, you're already into change mode to take on board what they're suggesting. And then, of course, they'll do a due diligence. Is this as good as it actually appears to the investors? And they'll go through the nuts and bolts of everything with you and further changes. That's why it's a process. It's constantly evolving. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So a suggested outline of business plan shown in the next few slides. Most business plans do not include all elements introduced in the sample plan. We include here them here in this document. Okay, so you have an executive summary. I've gone on about this. Shouldn't be they said it shouldn't exceed 2 single spaced pages. No, that's old. We're putting the constraint on half to 3/3 or 3/4 half to 3/4 of a page maximum, not 2 pages, single space. You already know this from your Moodle that we are Times New Roman, size font 12, single line spacing. Not this double spacing out crap at all. That's already on the front page of front of your Moodle sites for all submissions. Oh, and by the way, stick to Word. Don't be putting PDF crap up there as well, nor try and don't be using these Microsoft Word knockoff things, ODT or whatever they call it, and so on and so forth, because it's one team nearly failed last year because I couldn't open their document, and if I couldn't open it, I couldn't mark it, and they were saying, but we uploaded, you have it, you have to mark it. No, I don't have to mark it. If I can't read it, I won't mark it. That's harsh, isn't it? God, I can be such a bitch. But anyway, the point is, you need to be able to, just follow the instructions. Times New Roman, font 12, and single lined, and you'll be happy, and use Word. So executive summary, I talked about that already. Key insights. Executive summary is then arguably the most important section. It is. It either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't work, your plan is thrown in the bin by the investor and says, sorry, no, I'm going to waste time talking to these guys. We won't be that harsh, but we won't be that easy either, insofar as that we're not just going to go through the motions. You're going to have to put the work in to get these things done. But it's important. Get it right from the start, and it'll be plain sailing. You've done Porter's 5 forces. You've done SWOTs. You've done your environmental analysis and all that sort of stuff, and that's what this is. So I'm not going to go into detail. We've covered this before. We talked about marketing size, and so on, and you've done it in other modules. So suffice it to say, you need to know these key points included in there: size, industry structure, nature of participants in the industry, who are your competitors, key success factors, why do you think you're going to succeed, or why the industry succeed, and why you're going to succeed in there, and what are the middle to long term trends in the market. So are you going to be around in 2 years, 5 years time, that you can still make profit? The last point there, long term prospects of the market. That's the point I was making. Then industry analysis, target groups. Again, you've done all this stuff before. You've done this, so it's only a case of analysing who's in this in this business. Now, I haven't seen the choices of your topics yet, or have I? Can someone tell me, have you gone through your topic choices with Willie?
Yeah, we have.
You have. So is it all clear now as to which topics you're now working on within your teams?
Wait, do you mean like our products that we have chosen, like each team?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think every team or group have a product finalized yet, but most do.
Okay. I haven't been able to contact Willie in the last 2 days, but I assume anyway that he would have drilled you on somebody. Actually, I got an email from yesterday. He was looking for one particular group that was talking about a heist for a lift or something like that. He sent out a generic email yesterday evening, I think. But so I know he would have probably grilled you on your choice and saying, that will work or that won't work, and so on. So he's narrowing, he's helping you to focus down on something that has value and that will give you make life easier for it. Because if you just throw, for example, I had sports science students yesterday, and they had some of their ideas, and things like apps for nutrition and apps for exercise and all that. And I said, for crying out Jesus loud! I mean, they're done. I mean, God Almighty. Actually, the night before, I signed up for onto an app called Better Me. I mean, how could you better me? Anyway, and it was superb. I put in some basic details, and it'll give me the types of menus I should be having, and the exercises that I need to be doing, and videos of the things, and start now, and blah blah blah, for freaking $9, for crying out loud. It was superb, aimed to design to tune up, and ask me at the end of the semester, has it worked? But the whole to structurally lose some weight in so as I can obviously get lighter, so they don't have as much energy to push a bike and crap like that. So I'm assuming Willie would have gone through that shall we say the initial phases with you to get you to think about your products and think more deeply, such that you do have something that is not just a throwaway idea. It'll break your hearts if you don't put your hearts into it. Anyway, so then the company description, who you are, the history, how long you've been together, the mission statement. Why the hell are you in business? Why did you come together? Obviously to develop a new product and service, but what is it? You've identified something that you're passionate about and that solves a problem for a customer or group of customers and so on. That's why you're in business. Your reason for being. We came together because we want to solve this particular problem, and you state that in your mission statement as such. The products and service, where are you at the moment, and the legal status. What kind of structure are you? Your partnership, limited company, and so on. And key partnerships. Who are you most likely? You might have a particular supplier. You might be dependent on that supplier to provide particular components or input, or they could be a design company that are your partners, simply because and you might actually invite them in onto your company, or you might have somebody that's an already well-established entrepreneur and business person and so on. You might invite them onto your board and be a director, and oftentimes these guys and ladies do that free of charge, because they help to open doors for you. And because let's just say you had someone knew Michael O'Leary, and you asked him, said, any chance Mike could kind of come onto our board? And he might look at the company and he say, yeah, I won't be able to give you much time, but yeah, you're onto something there. It's a good idea. Yeah, you can use my name, and say as a director. And you walk into an investor, say, director, one of our non-executive directors, Michael O'Leary. But Jesus, they're going to say, he's obviously looked at this stuff. He's obviously seen something inside here. Ears are pricked up already. You're on a winner. But being less dramatic about it, you have other people around, other business people, and in particular sectors that you could use. So that could be a key partner, because they'll open doors for you, and the investors know that, yeah, this is going to be a lot easier. These aren't totally green entrepreneurs. So key partners, and it could be a distribution company. It could be the retail outlets. You might partner up with Musgrave, and they become a key partner because they're your channel to market by putting your products in all their stores, or some of their stores, the super values, or the Londis, and so on, so on, so on. So company in the description, the first glance, so it demonstrates to your reader that you know how to translate an idea into a business. So who you are, why you came together, and what you're going to try and do. Market analysis, I'm not talking about this, done it before, you know what it is. Segmentation, target market, understand your buyers, your customers, and competitor analysis. Who the hell else is in this space? Find out who they are and what competitive plan, maybe in your operations plan, say, we're doing something similar to that competitor, but we can do it better because we have new technology, new processes, new equipment, we've better brains. So market analysis, again, economics of the business. So the revenue drivers and profits. So economics is essentially the finances. What revenue streams are you going to use? And that's in your business model canvas. So you take the main ones, the ones that are going to generate the money for you most efficiently, and of course what kind of margins. So it's interesting that when we talk about margins on products or on product groups and so on, it's amazing the number of people don't understand their margins, gross and net margins and all, and so on and so forth. It's and they throw these out and they're calculating, trying to think and calculate in front of it. Tells the investors they really don't know the numbers, do they? Because remember I said to you, the financial section is the numbers version of the story you're trying to tell in the business document. Or the business document is our numbers translated into letters. And it has to tell the same story. Okay, it has to be that clear. So what the assumptions were, what did you put into your spreadsheets and to market size, and we assume that there's 4.9 million, 4.8 million people in Ireland, and of that it's approximately 50-50 male female, and of that it's this percentage over 18 and under 25 and male only, and then of that this percentage lives in Dublin or in County Dublin within the M50, and that's our target market. And of that, let's just assume 150,000, 200,000 people in that, we're going to try and get 10% of that market in the first year. Sounds big, 10%. That's 20,000 people. Okay, so that's how you break it down. So the story you're telling, we're aiming to generate revenue from approximately 10% of the market in this particular region, and show me the numbers, how you broke it down, and then you multiply out your products and so on. See this last one here, the break-even chart and calculations. That's an absolute must in your spreadsheet. So when you do your detailed plans and you're doing your cash flow for the first 12 months and maybe the second 12 months as such, you can extract or create a break-even analysis chart. Okay, cash flow chart, break-even analysis. So you're burning up money, burning it up until you get to, well, in my screen you're going to go down there, that's the x-axis, and you're going way down here, and eventually you're going to start coming back up again. Didn't have enough room on the screen, but it'll have that U-shaped curve and it'll start going up like that, and it's when you cross back over the x-axis, that's when you start to break even. And anything after the break even, then you're making money, you've been making some levels of profit, and eventually they'll increase. So you have costs and revenues, and you do that break even analysis overall based on your cash flow. I will most certainly want to see that in your business reports. Talk to your financial lecturers if you don't know how to create one. But remember, you should already know this, because you have done enough finance over the last 3 years, and to be able to use net present values, internal rates of return, and so on, to calculate out the cost of money and so on in the project. So you have your but that's important. So, and of course you'll have to start with your startup costs. What do we have? How much money do we have? How much are we short? And therefore that shortfall is the investment that you're seeking. And then based on that, assuming you got that investment, this is our break-even chart and our calculations. So you can always say, so computing a break-even analysis is an extremely useful exercise for any proposed or existing business plan. Signs of it. And when I worked in Meteor, I told you this before, I think, preparing business cases using Excel, it came down to a simple little couple of boxes in the third or fourth worksheet, I think it was that way calculated. You'd have that graph in there, but it just said how much you're investing, how many months it was going to take to get or weeks to get break even, weeks or months depending on the size, and when are we going to start making profit, and how much are we going to make profit over the lifetime of the product, because we'd actually calculate that this is going to last for maybe 18 months or 12 months or 2 years, so we could see how much we were going to bleed this product for before we'd retire it or have a replacement for it. And that's all the senior managers, I mean, the directors and vice presidents, when I presented ESOM, that's all they're interested. They looked at this thing, said, okay, we'll give you the budget for that. That looks good return and quick return on that money. What's the technology like? Blah, 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 and so on. Does it fit with our overall strategic objectives? Yep, pretty much. Roadmap shows that. Bang. Right, decision made. They were that quick in making decisions. Literally 5-10 minutes, and you could have. On one occasion, I walked out of that room with approval for $7.5 million to invest in new technology and content, because it was done. You made it simple for them. Give them the information, condense it down. Everyone understands it. They can see it. Bang, in, out. Didn't waste their time, and of course, you weren't wasting your. A lot of work went into it. They wouldn't, but they. I was going to say they would see it. They would, of course, have seen it. But even though it came down to a simple little graph and a couple of lines or a couple of boxes in Excel. Job done, perfect job done, because it made their life simple. And the more you do that, the better reputation you get, and your team gets, more importantly, and it becomes almost a de facto, going before you go into the pitch, that you're going to get the money because you've built you've delivered each time. The marketing plan, you know about that, sales tactics, sales process and cycles and all that, product price, promotion place, Physical evidence, people and processes, the extended piece. Because remember, no matter what product you're developing, you will have a service element to it. Okay, so just be careful on that one. Marketing plan, also important to discuss company sales process, how you're going to get it out there. So the best way to describe a startup's marketing plan is to start by articulating its marketing strategy, positioning, the points of differentiation, your USP, and then talk about how those overall aspects of the plan will be supported by the price, promotional mix, and distribution strategy. So who are your markets? Where do you think you're going to say? Are you going to sell to niche market, high end, luxury goods? Compete with everyone else in terms of volume? Is it high volume, low volume, bespoke, customized, whatever? These are the elements that feed into your marketing plan based on your product. Then you design your development plan. How are you going to make this? Challenges, risk, the projected costs. So these are all the cost elements of your cash flow. So how much are you investing there? When are you going to hire people? What new equipment do you need, or to either lease, rent, buy? Or you could borrow actually, but put all that in there, and that's why the project management side of it comes in. In the first 3 months, I expect to spend this amount and on these elements. In the second 3 months, I'll have this, and by the end of the 8th month, I should have a prototype. That's a milestone. So all of these, that's why the project management side of it, a logical, structured approach to getting a prototype and then going into production and the costs associated with that, and then getting it out to distribution, out to your customers. So anyway, that's I've talked enough about that. The operational plan, which is the fundamentals of how you're going to get the product made, hence operations. So a useful way to illustrate how your business will be run is to describe it in terms of backstage, unseen to the customer, and the front page seen by the customer. So what's all the stuff going on in the background, how you're going to get this made, where you're going to get it made, outsourcing, what outsourcing is done, to whom and where. The customer doesn't need to know that, but you most certainly do, because it's all part of your cost structure. Okay, so how you're going to build this, what standards you're going to have to comply with, and so on. And then see to give them some here, general approaches to operations, your business location. You might only have a head office or an office here in Ireland, and you might have the physical manufacturing outsourced to 2 or 3 other locations across the globe. Customer doesn't care. You have a product that's being sold through your website and through selected retail agents. Where it came from or how it was made. Some people say, well, what mark if you say it's made in China? People look down on that. Absolutely freaking not. An awful lot of stuff is made in China. The bikes that we cycle are made in either China or Taiwan. All of them. Very few. I'd say percentage-wise, single digits of bikes are manufactured outside China and Taiwan. And yet people will spend 2, 6, 10, 14,000 euros on these pieces of equipment. So, do I care that it's made in China? Absolutely not. I'm buying it because it's such and such a brand, or because I like that and I don't like that, blah blah blah. Most important that you put that together. So the operation. So as a result, it's best to keep this section short and crisp. Okay. So describing topics and providing too much detail, it's a trap you can fall into. You can fall into going into wonderful, this is how we're going to make it here, and this is what we're doing, and so on and so forth. People don't need to know that. But there's another pitfall if you get too carried away in describing the contents of your operational plan. You could put given away how you're actually, something might be in there that's patentable, some process, the product itself, parts of the product, and you might have copyright issues inside there. And here you are, you've written it all down and you've handed it to somebody and said, this is how we're going to do it, and you're chuffed with yourself because you've gotten into the detail. You've given away the bloody kitchen sink. You've told them exactly what you're going to do. And just because they're investors, and you think, but I can tell them. You might have them signing non-disclosure agreements. Not worth the freaking paper they're written on. One of those investors might already have the setups, the equipments, or the connections. Say, geez, I got this great idea from a group today that came in, and they're talking about 6 to 8 months before they can produce this. We could do this in 2 months. Go off, get that done, say nothing. And then you're wondering when you do your competitive analysis, and as you're doing, and you find that the product is already out there. And then you have to try and track back. Was that person connected with the company? Was it you see? It's business. So be careful what you say and the detail you put into some of these items. The management team and structure, who the hell are we? Who are the board of directors? I kind of mentioned that already. And the company structure, who's made up? Someone might be really good at finance, someone's good at marketing, or you might all be technical people, for argument's sake. So you need to co-opt in financial or HR or marketing people and so on to complete the functions of the organization to be able to deliver in all aspects. But again, that's down to the team structure. I mean, you're all business students, so it would be a presumption that you know about finance, you know about marketing, HR, and some of my other students would know an awful lot about operations. Some might even know about supply chain management. But you might not be able to write a line of code, and you might be developing some kind of advanced piece of software. Or you might be developing some piece of electronics, and you're not electronic engineers. You spent 3 to 4 years here doing business. You team up with someone. You go and hire. You buy in. Kidnap an engineer. And then tell them to give him part share of the company and so on and so forth. Because they have a skill set you need to deliver. Whatever it takes to get somebody. Of course, I'm only joking about kidnapping people and so on. I wonder will I get a strike on YouTube when I upload this for saying something like that? I don't give a shit. Anyway, the key answer. So in terms of management team, this is a critical section of the business plan. So many investors and others who read the business plan look first at the executive summary, and then go directly to the management team section to assess the strengths of the people starting. Who the hell are they? Who is this bloke Mark Cashin? Has he got a track record? Is he around? How old is he? What does he do? What's his background? Has he proven that he can take a company from startup through to thing? Maybe it's their first time out. You know, it's but we and that's why, as I told you before, be careful of the shite that you put onto your social networks, because as they might be saying, oh yeah, these are all new. I've never come across these names before. One of the first freaking things that they'll do is when your back is turning out the door and they said, interesting product like this, but I don't know who the hell they are. Get onto LinkedIn there. Get onto social media. See can you find anything about them. Google them. And here are you with a bad dose of the flu at some party. Anyway, it's whatever. So we're nearly finished. I've only a couple of slides left. So the overall schedule, again, this is part of your project management. So starting it up, where you're going to get, how long it takes to get to your prototype stage, the costs involved, and so on and so on. So all the elements from start to finish, you put that in the overall schedule. By this date, we should have our agreement with our suppliers. By this date, we should have first prototype made. By this date, approximately, we should have begun into production, and by this date we should be stacking shelves or whatever, getting it available to your various customers and end users. Overall schedule. So an effectively prepared and presented schedule can be extremely helpful in convincing potential investors that the management team is aware of what needs to take place to launch the venture and plan in place. And that's what brings me on to the other document that I told you about that's mandatory, and that's your product/service roadmap. what you start out with, where do you see it evolving over the next year, 2 years. This is the first version of it, basic version. This is, we're going to add some new features here in this version and so on. That's the high level plan of where you see yourselves going with your products. And then we put the structure in place, the project plan to deliver the first version of it. And when you've gotten to that, then you're already into the process of project planning for the second phase. Now, I'm not asking for the project plans for second, third and fourth, but in this case, you schedule your project to get to the first version to customers. And then the roadmap is this overarching document where you think it's going. Absolutely mandatory that we have this roadmap inside there. And then financial projections, not even going to talk about them. They're already there. You've done it. You've done income statements, balance sheets, cash flows, and ratio analysis. So some of the key ratios that you should include: return on assets, return on investment, profitability, margin, liquidity, gearing ratios, the usual suspects that you should be able to present in a summary table and so on. And then key and with these, so they take the plan, they take the plans you've developed and express them in financial terms. Duh. The numbers tell the story, or the story is supported by the numbers. Exactly what I've been saying. So the oral presentation. I'm not going to even delve into this anymore because we will talk about this later again. I know Willie would have talked to you about the pitch and presentation, and a lot of times in structure and form we'll be specifying that more precisely come time, and we'll get closer to that point where we'll get you to do the Dragon's Den pitch and so on. So don't worry about that. Usually we say 3-5 slides maximum, absolute maximum, and again 15 minutes, we probably cut it back to 10 minutes, maybe a bit less. We have used 7 minutes, but we'll come back to that. Short, sharp, precise. Get in, make a pitch, and bit of Q&A, and then then we decide invest or don't invest. The fact that we don't invest is not negative. It's just that we're not interested in spending money on that particular idea. It's the process of how you got there, presented to us. That's what we mark. Okay. And I won't even talk about these now for the moment. We will come back to these when we want to prep you for the pitch element. How are we doing time wise? Jesus, that's a blinder. I've done a 2-hour lecture in an hour, and I've lost a couple of people in the process. Any questions? Has anyone any questions? No? Any jokes? Comments? Valentine's jokes even, no? I only found out today that Valentine's Day was on Sunday. That was a close one. Any, are you all happy? Will you use the remoticons or actually act reactions and so on and so forth? Give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Oh, you can't do it.
All good, yeah.
Excellent stuff, folks. Listen, I'm going to let you go. So I won't talk to you next week. I'll upload some material for you to keep in touch, and particularly around project management, so as you can get more knowledge to help you along this journey. And sure. Listen, take it easy now. And I seriously now, once the weather clears over this next couple of days and that crap gets out of our way, try and get out and do a little bit of exercise, walking or whatever the hell you have to do, and just clear your heads, and then we have the final 5-week run into Easter, pretty much then, and so I'll see you then this day 2 weeks, not this day week, this day 2 weeks, give or take. So keep an eye on episodes that appear on YouTube for your benefit. Okay, folks. Listen, take it easy, and we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you then. Hang on a second, I just need to check chat. Yep, lovely
Thank
stuff.
you.
Okay. Thanks, folks. We'll see you. Everything is cool. Cheerio. Bye.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. You're welcome.